Hi there, everyone. Welcome back. You are watching the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, feel free to do so. You can just hit the subscribe button there. And there is on every video and on the home page, there is a link to buy me a coffee. And if you find my channel helpful or would like to support my efforts in getting more machines to rescue and save from the landfill, literally, feel free to go. You can just click on that link and you'll see my Buy Me a Coffee page, which pretty much looks just like my YouTube page, and you can donate at will. So you are looking at something very curious, the Pfaff Model 30. And when I first got this, I believe I made a video talking about it, and it says made in England, and the plug says made. I don't know if this is going to show up for you in this light. I'll try if I can hold it still long enough. Made in England. And there's the decal here says made in England. I found this so interesting, and the reason I'm a little surprised, if this was a Singer, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Singer had factories around the world. Other brands would have had potentially multiple factories. For example, Pfaff, which was founded in Germany, could very well have had multiple factories in Germany. They would eventually purchase the Kaiser Gritzner German sewing machine maker. They would have gotten some of their factories as well. But seeing this as made in England was curious to me. The only thing I can imagine is that this machine was made in either the late 40s or early 1950s. And Europe was being rebuilt at that time, and there could also be other reasons. It may have nothing to do with that. It could simply be that, remember, before the EU was formed, there were lots of trade barriers amongst countries in Europe, and who knows, maybe that's why they did it. I really don't know. What I do know is that the machine has a glorious sheen to it. The paint is beautiful. I will say that I may have shown this to you all earlier, some wear on the front here on the decals, but that's to be expected. It was a sewing machine. It was used. Many machines have this. Occasionally, yes, you will find machines that that are more pristine, but I have to say that this this lovely gloss, I mean, it's just incredible. The machine is heavy. Like a lot of vintage machines at that time, and German machines are no exception. They are heavy beasts. And this says, what does it say? It says it's got a serial number here, which doesn't really have much meaning. That is the remnant of what I think was the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. So I want you to think today, pretend this is you. You have just gotten this machine. Now, the machine came in a table that is sitting a little bit beyond the view of the cam here. But if you got it in the table and you open it up in the table, which you certainly could do, I pull machines out when I work on them because it's just easier for me to get to certain areas of the machine. And so, I wanted to kind of, let's pretend that this is you. You just got this machine. You're excited, like, oh, look, it's a Pfaff. It's made in, well, it's not made in Germany, but that's okay. It was beautifully made in England. England had, or Scotland rather, had the largest Singer factory ever on the earth. It was in Clydebank, Kilbowie, Scotland. I may be saying that backwards. My apologies to my Scottish friends. So when you think about a machine like this, you're like, wow, and maybe you got it at a thrift store just like I did. What you want to do is to start looking at the machine. Do not plug the machine in, not yet, because we're not ready to do that. We will, but I want you to think about this. And even though, you look at it and say, well, it's so pretty, it's so shiny, maybe no one hardly ever used it. Yeah, there's some scuffing. What could possibly be wrong? Well, that is the question. And so this is why you want to be very prudent when you are basically inspecting the machine that you have. Yes, you may have looked at it at the thrift store, or let's say you got it from someone and maybe they plugged it in and said, hey, this machine is great. Would you like to buy it? Remember that most people including not all, some of the people at the thrift stores, they have a very limited understanding about vintage sewing machines. And that's not their fault. I'm not blaming them. I'm just pointing this out to you. Some thrift stores do a better job than others. But just assume that you are going to be the inspector. Okay? Now, again, we see, oh, it's very nice and shiny. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to lower this foot, the presser bar. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go around and kind of poke a little bit. Okay? So let's do this together. And you don't have to have a Pfaff, by the way. No matter what vintage sewing machine you have, if it's if it's just straight stitch machine like this, even if it's a multi-stitch, a lot of this stuff applies no matter what sewing machine brand or model you've got. And again, I'm talking about vintage machines here. Now, I believe I mentioned in an earlier video on this machine when I first got it that we were looking at the plug. But just to be sure, remember, you are looking at the original plug. I inspected this at the store because I knew that getting a plug to match this would be a quest, and it could be an expensive one. Not for Singers and quite a few other machines, but definitely for this Pfaff. And I don't see any cracks. This is a hard Bakelite-like plastic. I have no reason to think that this is not going to work. The cords are wonderfully soft, and I can turn them. I'm not going to squash them, but I'm turning them. I don't feel anything crunching. I've gone through this already. I don't feel with my hands any damage. So at this point, I'm feeling okay about it. I don't know for certain yet, but we're going to find out. And with the foot pedal, I have not opened this up and inspected it yet, but if you're doing that, or you're trying to look at your foot pedal, remember this is a rheostat, right? I can tell just by the feel and the sound of it. It's a rheostat type, and now if I just when you wiggle this in my hand, I shake it, I don't hear anything. That doesn't mean that it has passed inspection, but at least I know there's not porcelain rattling around in there. I won't know until I open it, because remember, porcelain can crack if dropped, and it maybe hasn't come apart yet, but you won't be able to use it. But I'm not, I see a little bit of dust here. I'll be going into this foot pedal to explore and inspect. But so far, tentatively, so good. This was something I looked at in the store. I didn't have a ton of time to do it, but actually, sometimes in a thrift store, you may have more time to inspect than you would, say, on someone's front porch. Or, sometimes people just have it in the garage, say, here, do you want this machine? So you have to kind of, you don't always get the luxury of a long, move some of my stuff out of the way here. So, this machine came with its manual. And the manual is in German. I do not speak the German language, but if you get a manual that is in a different language other than English, the first thing you want to know is make sure that the electricals are for North America, and the electricals on this machine are. And it's very possible that this machine was purchased here, and I say this because of the motor, unless the motor was changed. So if you have a manual that's in another language, make sure you should always check the voltage on your motor, okay? Always. And in the case of a machine where you see another language other than English, that's also an indicator, hey, you need to check your voltage. Why? Because, my first thinking is, oh, I know it says made in England. Do I think someone either from the UK or from Germany, I'm not sure why an English-made Pfaff would be in Germany, but that person could have immigrated to North America and brought their machine with them. They say, hey, I'm not leaving that behind. It's a pretty heavy thing to ship, but okay. But you want to make sure that the voltage is going to be all right. So, pretty sure I've shown this to you all. But pretend, again, this is your machine and you are inspecting it. You really want to make sure everything You want to know as much as you can, okay? Now, when you look at this, of course, it says Sotric Ltd, London, England, but it says volts 120 AC DC. Now, what that tells me is it's very possible, well, up here it actually says Toronto, Canada, CSA approval, and it gives CSA is a governing body in Canada for electrical standards. So what this tells me is that the machine head, the body mechanicals, we know that was made in England. It tells us that. The motor would have either been made in the UK, because it says London on it, and it's got the name of the motor company. But we know that it was made for the Canadian market. Why? Because it's 120, and normally we wouldn't see that on a UK machine or a machine that runs in Germany. So that is a relief. And I remember when I was looking at this machine, that's one of the things I looked at. I was like, okay, that doesn't mean that the motor's in great shape. It just means that we should be okay electrically. So, but we know it is a Pfaff style motor because I have not seen, I think I saw the motor that I had on the Pfaff number 6, that sort of platinum white gold colored machine that I've covered. It had a very sort of a similar setup. This model is a little different in terms of how its light is attached. With the Model 6, which may have been a later model, there was, of course, we have, let me lower the cam here just a bit. On this piece here, the place where we're going to put our power plug sits right below the motor. In fact, it's part of the motor housing, or it's part of a compartment the motor is attached to. But with the light, remember on the Pfaff number 6, the light had its own plug down here, and then it would come up above. Well, this one does not. In fact, this one pivots. Look at this. It's an electrical cord, and hopefully it's a very stout cord, because, get my angle here because I'm talking and you're not seeing. There we go. So this thing is actually designed to swivel, which is fascinating. You want to be careful with anything that swivels or wiggles when it's electrical and old. But it doesn't seem to be giving any resistance. The switch here, I don't know if you guys heard that nice click, and it clicks back. That is very similar to the other Pfaff Model 6 that I had. So, and I also see that the shaft of the motor is similar to the Model 6. I see it poking out here. So the motor certainly has lots of openings for air, to flow through it. That looks nice, or looks hopeful. We got a little bit of dust on the machine, but that's to be expected. Doesn't scare me, and it shouldn't scare you. It's just dust. Now, what can we do? I don't yet know if there is a bulb in this. It appears to be an incandescent. In fact, I'm sure it is. And it's been there a while because, remember, look at the brass base. You don't really see brass bases anymore. Uh-oh. Oh, wow. Look at that, guys. Did I not have a machine recently that had a bulb that had separated from the base? Sure enough, this one has two. Oh, that was lucky. Well, I think it was lucky. I'm trying to turn it. There we go. It's a bayonet. Okay. Remember, do this with your machine unplugged. Now, remember the last time I had to go in and, oh gosh, it was a royal pain to get out. This one I was lucky when I pushed in. Remember, with bayonets, you push in, turn to the left. In that case, it's coming toward us. And that's how you release the bayonet, because you turn it until the little pins here, or protrusions, line up with the slot and it comes out. But this is something that can happen. And it's probably happened to many of you at some point in your lifetime, even with like a bulb in a lamp, where you went and it's like, oh no, because the bulbs are attached with some sort of cement that they bond them to the metal base. And yeah, that's a bayonet style. And I'll have to go and look at the sizes. I have incandescent. I also have quite a few bayonet LEDs. Now, why did I want to do this? I could have plugged the machine in and turned the light on, and I might have got nothing. I might have got a little pop, and there's no reason to do that. I wanted to see, is the bulb okay? Remember that a sewing machine bulb that is this old has gone through many heat cycles, expanding and contracting, and you know what? If you keep wiggling, eventually the bulb just comes loose and the wires let go. But this is a good thing to know. I'm not convinced that the light fixture is the problem. We will know soon when I go to replace the bulb and test it. But at least we know what kind of bulb it is. And sometimes if you don't have a bulb in your machine, and that happens sometimes, then you're going to have to, once you figure out, you have to study the socket. You have to shine a light down the socket and say, well, what kind is that? If you see threads, it's a threaded base. So if you have the old bulb, don't throw it away right away, because you want to use this as a reference for your replacement. Just a common sense thing there. All right, so we know we need a new bulb, but no big deal. That is not uncommon with a machine that's been around since I don't know, before President Eisenhower in the U.S. I don't know. All right, what else do we have to look at? Well, we have one of the largest and most substantial motor brush caps I have ever seen. I mean, that is a big, giant brush cap. And I'm going to turn it. Oh, it turns to the left. It has a place to put a really giant screwdriver. Let's get up here and we'll get a little more, get a better angle for you guys so you can see what I'm talking about. Right here, right there. And I'm just going to turn it. Now remember, I've shown you all, if you're new to motor brushes, okay, again, your machine, make sure it's unplugged. I know it sounds obvious, but it's good for me to help me remind me. When you are turning the brush cap, do not undo the brush cap all the way without holding it down, okay? Because there's a spring behind it, and that spring can send this little cap flying. And if it does, you may never get it again. And I really don't want to have to go and hunt for a brush cap for a 75-plus-year-old Pfaff. Okay, so I'm sort of holding. I'm not putting any real force here. Just put this finger here lightly, all right, and then I'm turning. And what am I doing? I'm loosening the brush cap, and you probably see some of the threads there being exposed. But there we go. So I kept just enough pressure to keep that spring from flying out. And it shouldn't fly anywhere now. Now let's see, we're going to take this out. And do this very gingerly, because your brush is attached to your spring, but sometimes the brush can come off the spring, and then you have to fish the brush out, and that can be a time-consuming pain. It can be done. It's obviously done, but look at that. Hooray. Now, this brush is, I'll get my straight edge out earlier, but this is just a hair under a half an inch, okay? So this brush should have plenty of life left in it. Once you get down to less than a quarter of an inch, then I like to replace them. Brushes are not that difficult to find. Even, it's basically an electric motor brush. They're graphite material, and they take a long time to wear, but you should inspect them, especially when you first get a machine, because you don't know. And, there is obviously some wear. You can see, I don't know if you guys can see in the light here, the curvature. Let's see if I can hold it still for you and get enough light to actually let you see what I'm talking about. You'll see that the curvature, or will you see? All right, let's see. Is there any light left here today? All right. Need to get a little bit more focus for you guys. That's very blurry. There we go. Okay. In that light, you will see that there's a curve, right? And when I put the brush back, which I'm not going to do immediately, I'll put that back in that way. Now, typically, it's pretty normal for brushes to wear evenly. You have two brushes, and you think, oh, well, when I take the motor off, I can check the other brush just in case, because brushes should always be replaced in pairs. but don't assume. Maybe this one was replaced some time ago and the bottom one wasn't. It doesn't hurt to check both. Makes a lot of sense because again, it's a mystery machine, right? We don't know. I don't know. I got this at the thrift store, and there's a lot of wonderful accessories with it, but I don't know the history of the machine, and you don't know the history of yours when you get them like this. So we want to kind of be sort of solving a bit of a puzzle, but that's okay. All right, now before we go any further, what you want to do is you want to get yourself a terry cloth towel. It can be cotton or not. Now, I happen to have something, and by the way, I never use microfiber towels on my machine, so I want to make sure. The reason I grabbed this, I have towels, but at the moment I just got this because it was close by. This is a very fluffy, textured microfiber towel that I use on my car. I repeat, do not use this on the paint finish or on your vintage sewing machine. These old finishes are not going to hold up well with a microfiber. That's my experience. Some people may have different opinions, and that's okay. But why am I showing it to you? What I want you to think about is I want you to take the microfiber or cotton, terry, whatever towel. You can even use a dish towel or a washcloth, but make sure it has some fluffy texture to it, okay? And what am I going to do? I'm going to take my brush cap, okay, and I'm going to put it right there. You can also get a small box if it's heavy enough, like a little tin box, and there's my brush. I just want that right there. I don't want them going anywhere. And textured cloths or towels are good at kind of helping you hold on to stuff. Because I have had over the years moments where things went flying and I was, crawling around trying to find them, and it's not fun. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to also, coming around on this side, we're going to get access to our belt. Now this machine has a belt. Belts are often old and tired and dry rotted, but not always, especially if the machine was stored indoors. Now I saw this. When I first saw this, I thought, "Oh no, I'm missing my set screw for the clutch knob." But it's not. It's in there. It's just recessed. That's just how Pfaff. That's how they did this particular thing. And we're going to take that off because we want to get it at the belt just to see what the belt's like. Now the belt, and I've shown this before. Actually, the belt. This is our bobbin winder, which is not. It's not currently depressed, and it's not touching the hand wheel, but the space between it and the hand wheel is tighter than on some machines. So instead of trying to slip the belt under it and stressing I could take the bobbin tire off, yes, but I want to take my hand wheel off anyway. I want to look at it, especially because, well, this hand wheel, I don't know if you guys remember me yapping about it before, it's a little different, and it's a surprise difference I was not expecting when I got this machine. Expect the unexpected, and then you won't be surprised all that much. All right, so let's see if this screwdriver tip is narrow enough, or is it too wide? Let's see if I can. We'll try this one. For those of you who are doing any kind of sewing machine work or disassembly for the first time, always it's good to take photos as you do it. And then you can even, as you place pieces of the machine, you can actually put them in order that you took them off if you want, and you can even label them. I don't need to label this, but when you're doing something and you've never done it before, you can confuse yourself, and you may find it helpful. In any case, I would definitely take pictures so you can keep up with what you're doing. The main reason, by the way, if you loosen the set screw on your clutch knob too much, it could come loose and it can go flying. one of the things that I should have mentioned to you that would also help me is I'm going to take my microfiber or terry cloth towel and put it below, because if something falls, I really would prefer that it fall on the towel, because it has a much greater chance of not getting lost if it falls. We don't want it to fall, but well, that's how things roll sometimes. All right, now so it's ready to come off. Now, when you're turning this knob, I don't really have a lot of machine bed down below. Sometimes you will. Just put your hand here. This knob is heavy. We don't want it hitting anything, scratching anything. That'd be a shame on a machine this beautiful. Okay. All right. So there's the clutch knob. It has a texture. You'll often see this on the older Pfaffs. And later we're going to clean and oil this set screw. But if your set screw's loose, let's just turn it back just a bit, just to let it stay threaded in the clutch knob itself, and that way you won't lose it. You'll know where it is. Okay, and we have our washer. Wanted to make sure it was here because you never know. And it was in the right position. The little gear teeth there are slightly angled outward towards us. Now, this is what I'm very curious about. I'm going to get my, I can't remember if I checked with my magnet, but we'll check it again. But I'm pretty darn sure, and I haven't even put it in my hand yet. If you take the handle off in your hand, you'll know if it's made of steel or plastic. But I'd like to know if it's plastic. Why? Because if it is, we've got a different kind of inspection to do. So this is my little telescoping magnet, and it wants to stick to the drive shaft, which is clearly steel. But no, it does not stick to the hand wheel. Now, the hand wheel, the hand wheel could be aluminum potentially, but I've never seen a ton of aluminum hand wheels except on some of the Singer Slantomatics. Okay, well, yeah, I'm really I'm imagining that this hand wheel is made of plastic. Now that's okay. That don't it doesn't have to be a problem. However, let's go very, very methodically. You want to look for cracks, because remember the hand wheel is a pulley and it's under tension, and some plastic hand wheels survive just fine. Others, not always. Now, if yours has a crack, it might be salvageable. There may be a way to repair the crack if it's not all the way through the material, and I don't actually see any cracks. Now, what we might see, there's my flashlight here, what we might actually see, not sure yet, is potentially a metal bushing inside that plastic. So, if you're not sure, bushings are almost never made of aluminum. They're going to be made of steel. Oh, well, this does not stick. Okay, wow. So, that's very interesting. I'm going to suppose that the bushing itself it's all plastic. Interesting. You know, it's kind of curious because maybe they were trying some cost cutting, but when you go back this far in the history of consumer products, you don't see cost cutting that often. I'm not saying it never happens. It's kind of unusual. Let's get our belt off of that shaft there. By the way, sewing machine belts can be washed with dishwashing liquid and left to dry, and you get oil on them. Now, what am I trying to look at here? I want to see, does this belt, does it have any cracks? Let's see here. I'll get my flashlight. This is very unusual. Sometimes this happens, everyone. It's rare, but it can happen. I've seen it happen on other machines, including Singers and different brands, where The belt does not have any crazing or cracks. That's incredible. What that tells me is this machine was obviously, it was kept in a table. It was kept in climate control comfort for its entire life. Because belts, now this, granted, the rubber belts from the old days like this one, they had fibers in them and they could be very durable. And any reproduction belt, rubber belts you get can be durable. Now here's a place, see if I can show this to you. There's a place on a belt where the two ends join. And it's also something you want to check. You don't have to be, don't crush the belt, but you want to, I'm going to put this on here. Where is it? Yeah. I'll put the flashlight on here. Let's see if that'll help you guys see it. I don't even know if you guys can see it. I see it. There's a diagonal joint right there where my finger just went. And it's fine. In fact, I actually believe I'm going to be able to reuse this belt. Doesn't happen often. And if that's you, don't get rid of your belt. Now, if the belt was in bad shape, don't get rid of that belt either, because you're going to want to use that to measure for a new one. I know it sounds very logical, but there are plenty of people who've gotten rid of stuff and, oh, I needed to measure that. Okay, so hooray. So I'll be, and just, I'll just put this in some dishwashing liquid and rinse it off and let it dry. That's a surprise. I wasn't expecting that. All right, what else can we take a look at? The other thing that you can do when you're trying to look at your machine, and I've shown this before, is you want to, on the front, you should see a check spring, especially on a model of this vintage. They haven't started burying the check springs yet. And so let's see what we've got here. And what I will suggest to you is take something very, very narrow. You can do this with a small screwdriver, but be very careful. You're not out to really do anything with the spring except test it. So I can take my screwdriver and I can put it down here right in the valley of the check spring and just push down, and it bounces right back. That's a healthy check spring. That's what I want to see. And the dial here, it moves freely. It doesn't seem to be unhappy or unwilling to move. Now, let's pan back out and let's take a look at what else can we just take a cursory glance at. Now, I'm going to lift up my presser foot. Now this thumb screw, it moves and it didn't need any help. So that's curious. This had to have been used sometime, at least maybe in the last decade, because it wasn't stuck, right? Oh, by the way, if this falls off for you, what just fell off is something that is very often attached to the presser bar, and it's a thread cutter. That's all that is. And I just put it back on there because now, one of the things you also want to be mindful of, even though this is a class 15 machine, I want to make sure that this bobbin case is a healthy, happy bobbin case. Am I going to need to get another one? Am I going to be able to get one that the machine is happy with? We can see there. You can see one of the solid class 15 bobbins. You often see these on Pfaffs and Neckies. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply pull gently, right? The little spring action here on those of you who know class 15 machines, you won't be surprised. And when I pull back, and I'm not putting it through its pace yet, I'm just gently pulling and it snaps back. It's healthy. It's probably dry as a bone and needs a little lubrication, but that's not a bad sign. It has its hook. Don't assume that the hook is there. I've had machines, it's rare, but I've had machines when, oh crap, couldn't find a hook because the hook was gone. Had to get a replacement. But you can often do that. Now, this machine has its needle plate, but notice it does not have any seam allowance markings, as many machines in this period did not. But thankfully, I think I can see in the reflection. I don't know if you guys can, I don't know if it's going to pick up for you. I see two lines, they're very faint, So someone at some point may have had a piece of tape there, but it was gone when I got the machine. I'm not worried about it. That's something that should be able to clean up okay. This plate, this bobbin area plate, it just slides beautifully. So again, the machine it's not nearly as stiff over here. Now, by the way, notice I've got my stitch length adjustment, right? And going all the way up, we'll put it into reverse. If yours doesn't move, like this one was feeling stiff, remember that some vintage machines, Singer would later add this to many of their machines, they have a thumb screw or set screw where you can lock in the stitch length. So make sure that that is working first. Then once you loosen that, oh, look at that. Then we have plenty of action. So sometimes, it's not your lever that's stuck. Well, it is stuck, but it's stuck because someone has set it there. It may not be due to old oil. So I'm going to pull this up. We get good movement. If I do this more, we can go all the way up. And that is, that's helpful. And if you notice, when you are moving or testing your stitch length lever, look at the feed dogs if they will show up for you. I'm trying to keep both of them. Here I am on the right. I'm gonna be testing the stitch length, and notice that the feed dogs are moving. Right, they're shifting as they should. If they're not, then usually you can't get any movement with your stitch length. Oh, the nickel plated or chrome plated pieces are lovely, very nice. Let's see. What about our bobbin tire? Let's come back over on this side. Let's see, how old and tired are you, bobbin tire? Well, it's not new. I don't see any bald spots because that can happen. So let's see, what happens if when I bend it? You guys see any cracks there? Got to get some focus, that would be nice. So let's see. I'll have to put the old flashlight on it. Wow, this is interesting, guys. This rubber bobbin tire, bobbin winder tire, it may not be the original. In any case, it doesn't say Pfaff on it, but that doesn't really matter. What does matter is the fact that it's not dry rotted. It's perfectly fine. Just like the belt, we're going to get to use it. It may have been replaced once, but that's a nice bonus. Don't ever assume that it's going to happen, but it's a nice bonus. While you're on this side, now that you can see the action of your bobbin winder, when you push down like you're going to set the bobbin winder, right? And then when you pull back on this piece here, it has a very nice spring action. Now, we won't know until we test the bobbin winder if it needs any adjustment, but at least it's strong. It's willing to bounce, and that's a good thing. So now, before you go further into your attempts to get your vintage machine to run, let's take a look. I'm going to cushion the back here. Let's take a look underneath. Now, obviously, I don't know how well the machine is if it's willing to move at all. What you want to be careful of when you tilt a machine back like this, remember that light fixture there is not all that robust, so we want to be real extra careful. I don't want that light fixture to get bent or snapped in any way. In fact, I'm actually going to just hold it right now. This is a good time to think about when you're inspecting a machine. You can also inspect the underside when the machine is in the table, and it's a little easier to prop sometimes, and you may need some help. Have someone behind it holding it so it doesn't come back crashing down on you. Now, so I'm just being very cognizant. You can see the light fixture. It seems okay now, but I don't want all the weight of this big, heavy beast on it. And what do I see when I look underneath? This is kind of interesting. One of the things I like is that on this model, as was true on my Pfaff Model 6, that the bobbin was side loading and it was on the side, not facing the front. Some of the German machines, and I've seen a Bernina like this. Why they did it, I don't know. It's so strange to have a side loading bobbin plate, but then you have to figure out, you have to basically tilt the machine back. You can do it. I don't want to make it into more of an issue than it is. What do I see underneath? Oh, I see some, let's get the flashlight here. Beautiful steel. I don't see any corrosion. Wow. That's interesting. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but over here, it may not show up. You see the little red spot on the far right, right there? That is where they had made an attempt to show you one of the areas you might need to oil. You should oil. There are many others that we're gonna highlight. Now, one other area that I want to remind you all, as you're inspecting, if you're not sure what this button is or this knob, it's a very classic place to put it. Most machines, not all, but most that have the ability to lower the feed dogs, there's a knob here. It is almost always frozen. And I'm not even going to push to see if it's frozen. I'm going to assume that it's frozen. And I will use the same procedure you see me use with other machines. I'm going to go underneath the linkage, and we'll take a look at that in another video. And we're going to get the feed dog mechanism that adjusts the height. We're going to get it working, but we're going to get it working sort of going to follow a trail backwards. We're going to start with the mechanism, get that loose, and then we'll be able to get the knob to work, because the mechanism itself is steel. So, you know, we can push on the steel, but you don't want to try to move steel that might be stuck with a plastic knob. We don't want to hurt that knob. That knob has survived this long, and we want to keep that knob. All right. Well, folks, that is a cursory, little further in-depth inspection of the Pfaff Model 30, the German machine, certainly German design, made in England. There's a story behind that. If any of my viewers, if you live in the UK, or maybe you're here in Canada and you have an English-made Pfaff, let me know. There had to have been a Pfaff production facility in England and in the UK. It says England specifically. It doesn't say Great Britain or UK. So, but I love, you know, we've got great decals here, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what this machine has to say. We'll be going in other videos. We'll be going out. We'll be opening up the foot pedal, of course, and I'll be going in to do some cleaning on the motor's commutator. Again, haven't plugged it in, haven't tried to run it yet. Certain things I like to do before I first give it a check. Okay, one last thing. Can't remember if I actually showed this or not. I'm just turning the shaft here. I don't have the hand wheel on, and I have nice needle action. This needle is funny looking. It's kind of tilted slightly to the left. I don't think it's going to show up for you guys here on the camera, but it's got a weird, it tapers a little bit, and I don't even know, can't even tell. I'm not surprised. In fact, I can feel the groove here. This machine will thread from the left to the right, and that's very common for the period. But the needle, as it comes down, it's kind of bowing to the left, and I'm wondering, because something's catching down there. So I'll definitely be replacing the needle. And by the way, if your needle is off, that's a good time. I'll be inspecting the hook, because hooks can get damaged when the needles do strange things. So there you go. We have more videos to make on this machine. It is the first Pfaff Model 30 I've ever touched before. So again, pretend this is your first machine. Maybe it is. And let's think about how to go about figuring out the machine. You've bought it already, and you're kind of trying to figure out, you know, what's working, what might not be working. But it's kind of fun, especially for me, to explore a machine I've never seen before, because many of the machines, especially in my favorite machine series, as you all know, I love going back to certain machines again and again. We will be revisiting the Pfaff Model number 30. Again, I already have someone who's asking about it. And I haven't posted it for sale. Someone was asking me about machines I might have in my inventory, and this is one of them. So thank you all for watching and listening to me go on and explore this beauty that managed to survive, the German born in England. That's the best way I know to describe it. Anyway, thanks again, folks. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And if you would like to donate to this channel and help me in my efforts to purchase more of these machines from people so that we can rescue them and get them in the hands of people who really know how to sew once they've been restored and overhauled, because they are definitely heirloom quality. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time.